We are back on Inside Politics, talking today with Congressman Diane Black. She's a candidate for governor in the Republican primary on August 2nd. Congressman, until last week, all the gubernatorial ads on the Republican side, and there's 4 of you running, touted how conservative you are and how much like Donald Trump you are. But then last week, you began to run multiple ads that sort of criticize your opponents for not being conservative enough, that they're too moderate. Why the change in tactics?
Well, I think
it's
time. Actually, I will tell you that I've been beat up for.
There's some outside groups that got involved too.
And we know who they are and what they're connected to. So yes, I've been beat up now for about 3 months, and it's just time in the race to define my opponents. And we all do that in our races. We have to define our opponents. Obviously, they're not going to define themselves.
But usually, you only attack candidates you're worried that are gaining on you or getting ahead of you.
Well, this is going to be a tight race, and we have to make sure that as my opponents are selling themselves one way, and I'm being attacked constantly by these outside groups who are obviously tied to my candidates, my opponents, that I also have to reach back out and say, let me show you the truth of who they really are.
One of your opponents has put a sort of an opposing ad back on, calling you DC Diane. There's particularly an interview in there that you did with Katie Couric. It was either in late 2015 or 16.
That's right.
In which what you said seemed to be very much different about the wall that Donald Trump wants to build than what you said in your campaign ad. How do you explain that?
So, Pat, you've been in the business a long time, and you know that you can take an interview like we're having today, and you can slice it and dice it and just take out. What I was talking about is Ms. Couric asked me, can you put a border wall across the entire border?
And you said, quote, you can't build a wall, that won't work.
Yes, and what we were talking about is I had just been to Brownsville, and I had seen the river, and the Rio Grande was where a lot of people were coming across, and I said, you cannot build a wall across the river. Now, of course, what they clipped out of there is you can't build a wall, it won't work. And what I was referring to is you have to have other things besides just a wall. So you have to increase the amount of ice. You've got to make sure you have the patrols in the river. There are aerial devices that the ice workers can see when someone's coming across the river, so they can go to and address it. That's what I was addressing there. And look, everybody knows
doesn't mean you don't support the wall.
I do support the wall.
Because you've run a lot of TV ads about the wall.
My own budget last year fully funded the wall. I have supported the wall from the very beginning. Yes, we need a wall, but a wall doesn't work in every place across the border. Across Texas, when you have the Brownsville and you have the Rio Grande River, I stood there and watched where illegal immigrants were coming across the water, and that you can't build a wall to keep that from happening.
You've run a lot of television ads. In a lot of your ads, you've talked about being a nurse, about being a single mother. You've sort of projected an era of toughness, maybe too much. Do you feel like you have to do that in part because you're a woman and there's never been a woman who served as governor of our state?
I think people want to know that there's a soft side of me and that yet I'm a tough person. When I believe in something, I go at it, and I think I've shown that in what I've been able to do here in the state.
The soft side comes in the ad where you're sitting on the railroad track reading the Bible? Is that part of that? Or is that more aimed towards the evangelical part?
No, what that does is it shows where I come from. It shows that I am somebody that can understand people from one end of the spectrum to the other, and it talks a little bit about where I come from and who I really am. It says what I'm made of.
When we talked earlier in the program about the 3 issues you'd found from the voters, one of them was education. I don't think I have seen a specific TV ad from you about education. Not much about the state being so rural, and not much about opioids either. So I mean, why isn't that reflected? As your ads have been much more about national issues. There have been times people thought your ads were more about running for congressman of the state.
Yeah, I do have ads out there about opioids, and I don't know whether you have seen the story out there that I tell even about my own family, where my husband has 2 siblings that he's lost to opioids. So there is a story out there. It's a very personal story about that. There's a story out there about me being a nurse and about my background is nursing. So what we want people to do is, people in Middle Tennessee know me. They know that I'm a nurse. They know that most of my career have been about healthcare issues, and that's good. But for those that are outside of the Middle Tennessee area, I love what my husband says. He says, you know, you have the compassion of a nurse, but you have the mettle of a Marine. So showing people that, yes, I have compassion, but I can also be strong is very important.
So much of the conversation from the candidates on the Republican side has been about how much they are like Donald Trump, how much they like Donald Trump and support him. Why is that important, being the governor of Tennessee?
Well, I think when people look nationally and they looked for a leader that they felt was going to do what they said, President Trump has been that person. He said that he was going to make America great again within a year of being there. A major tax reform that we see as making a huge difference across our entire country and right here in our very state, in our own backyards with the people that are either individual families or also with job creators.
Do you expect President Trump to come to Tennessee if you're the nominee to campaign for you in the fall? Have you talked to him about it?
We don't know what President Trump is going to do day to day. Of course, he's got a very busy schedule. I would love for him to come here and campaign for me.
He was here for Marcia Blackburn. Were you disappointed you weren't brought up on the dais? He did give you a shout out.
Yes, he did. And we didn't expect that. He was here for Marcia. She's, of course, running for Senate, and he was here because they are concerned about making sure that we do keep that Senate.
There's this continuing controversy about the zero tolerance policy at the border, and particularly about families being separated. We still have, I think, an estimate from the government of about 3,000 children separated from their parents. Even if their parents did something wrong crossing the border, shouldn't they be reunited, and why does it seem to take so long?
Well, let me first of all say that as a mother and a grandmother, I would never want to be separated from my children or grandchildren. However, I would never put my children or grandchildren in the situation, the dangerous situation that they have put their families in. And we did, the President and the Congress also agreed that we needed to keep the families together, so they are being detained together and then they're being deported. And if they wanted to be together,
3,000 separated from each other.
I recognize that, and there are reasons for that. But listen, if they wanted to be together, then let's have them come and follow the rules of how to get through with that asylum.
But the President,
want them to do that.
One of his tweets said he didn't believe that those who are being brought in and detained now, he doesn't think they should have any legal rights, should have no due process. That's pretty contrary to what the rule of law has been in this country.
If they come in illegally, he does not. Now, if they come in the pathway that is set up for them to come in an orderly fashion, you know, it's not fair for the people that are sitting there waiting to be, their cases to be heard.
But they're coming in for asylum, they're not coming across the border illegally.
But there is a place that is safe on that side of the border. They're coming there to say that there's a reason they're coming here, because they feel like they're in danger, and there is a process to follow. Listen, we are a rule of order. I've traveled all over this world. I've done medical mission work in Guatemala and Haiti. There's no way I would go into their country without following the rules, because I'm not sure. No, I'm pretty sure what would happen to me. So we are a country of order, of law and order. Follow the pathway and wait in line, because you can't say when somebody gets out of the line and tries to come in illegally that you should take them and put them either in the same order or in front of the people that are waiting in line.
Congressman Diane Black's our guest. She's a candidate for governor in the Republican primary on August 2nd. Back to continue our conversation with her after this break.